Sure. Let's welcome Edison up to either the podium or the table. Either is fine. And while they're getting ready, I just want to add a couple thoughts as we go through these. As you know, we are recognizing different schools each board meeting. It's Edison's turn, and they're going to speak to you a lot about their school improvement efforts, which are the result, as you know, of a lot of your work on the strategic plan, priority 4 mostly. And tonight I also, before they get started, since there's only one of them, it gives me a little bit of extra time, wanted to take a little opportunity to, we talked about kind of the structure that I do with them during the month and the things with the last schools, but there are other people involved in this, so I want to recognize some people out there. You see many of the schools talk about Panorama, Avid, some of the other initiatives that they brought through, the day-to-day. So a lot of that goes to Dr. Ward and her work coming on the other side with a data consult that she does with them about 3 times a year, right, for each school. Mike Lair in the Teaching and Learning Department as well. Peter, too, who is not here tonight, but Peter Furch. Peter meets once a month with their chair of their Teaching and Learning Committee. He kind of works with them here, and then when I come in the SILT meeting, we make sure it's all aligned, and it's often aligned to some of the direction that Mike has helped us with, which is how that kind of works. And Rhonda, who doesn't get in there as much, but is always there, which she's the money person. And so when we have to talk about school improvement plan and they have to say what they're going to spend their money on and how they're doing it, I review, obviously, some of those funds, but a lot of them come out of our grant work, and that is Rhonda. And each time I'll recognize some other people as we go, too. And so anyway, tonight we'll get Edison up and started and talking about the wonderful things they're doing.
All right. Hi, good evening. Angie Schoonover, principal at Edison. I'm going to first introduce the team that we have with us tonight. So we have Ms. Tamisha Carter. She's our Dean of Students at Edison. Tiffany Williams, she's our assistant principal. Den Cito, she's our instructional coach, and Kyle Freeman, he's our associate principal. So we are all a part of the SILT team. We do have 2 other members who couldn't be with us tonight. Jackie Hammond, she is the teacher leader for our equity committee, and we also have Amanda Clybourne, who is our teacher leader for our culture and climate committee. All right, so Edison School Improvement Team. So we have kind of evolved over the last couple of years. We have a pretty strong SILT team that I'm honestly very, very proud of. Very dedicated teachers on the committees. They have been with us now. Our committee leaders have actually been with us for 3 years now, so they couldn't get enough of it after 2. They stuck with us for another 2 more years. So we have 4 different committees at Edison. We have an equity committee, a student learning and engagement committee, a family and community engagement committee, and a culture and climate committee. The Family and Community Engagement Committee is actually new this school year. We did have a professional development committee that we did a lot of really cool work with, but we thought it was kind of time to switch our focus to family and community engagement. And then we have, through the focused schools, we have landed on a learning focus statement for our building that we have actually started aligning some of our work to already. By Edison students will demonstrate comprehension of content knowledge through academic vocabulary and student collaboration. So through our slides, you'll see some of the main things that we're focusing on are going to be highlighted in red to kind of just stand out for you. So just a little bit of data for you first. So Edison actually received a summative designation of commendable for this school year, which is a really good honor for us. So a little bit of our data. Our students actually have the highest passing rate for Algebra 1. It's higher than the state average. We continue to see decreases in the achievement gap between our Black and white student populations in ELA on our MAP assessments. We saw a very high percentage of our Black and white student populations meeting their growth goals in MAP this year. The percentage of our MLL students who met their growth goals in math is higher than any other subgroup. The growth for our MLLs was just phenomenal. Our low SES student population has continued to see increases in ELA growth. Our student population as a whole rated themselves between the 80th and 99th percentile on the growth mindset on the student SEL survey in Panorama. And though we've seen a lot of really good things come out in our data, we understand that we still have an opportunity gap that exists between our white students and our Black student populations. So with that being said, I am going to turn it over to help some of our committee leaders help present some of the things that we're doing.
The equity team. Our focus areas is culturally responsive teaching and the brains book study. It's with all staff with a focus on providing PD on research-based culturally responsive pedagogy and instruction in the classroom. We meet monthly in our grade level meetings. This book is an anti-racist book study with 6th grade students during flex time. It focuses on anti-racism. And then we have also submitted a grant to expand instruction to our 7th and 8th grade students. Intentional focus using data to increase the relational capacity between our students and staff. With that, we use our panorama data. So it focuses on academic, attendance, and student needs. And we do a data dive every month in our grade levels. With that, we get our champion. And we're champions is we have every student, every teacher has 3 to 4 students that they focus on, and they become their trusted adults to have them process their day, check on their attendance and their academic needs. We also have the relational capacity PD with staff that was done at the beginning of the year. And the last one is creating systems of support and formal structures to create safe and equitable spaces for LGBTQ plus students and their allies, providing professional development around the systems and awareness. And with that, we also have a student-led club called PRISM, and we also have an EMAC club with that.
All right, the student learning and engagement. So Din is actually the teacher leader for our student learning and engagement committee. Oh, and she's going to actually help here.
Hello, I'm Din Cito. I am the chair of the Student Learning and Engagement Committee. So our team focuses on collecting student data so we can analyze it for trends and for different insights into the student learning experience at Edison. So we really value student voices by talking to our students, looking at the panorama data, and then we also look at classroom grades school-wide, our map data, and just looking at those academic performance indicators, school-wide and also in the classroom. Two of the committees two of our subcommittees in our committee work really hard to kind of identify different teaching practices and then breaking those down for teachers, sharing them with staff so that they're manageable. And consistent across all classroom spaces. So one of the things that came out was we are focusing on student collaboration in all of our spaces. And a lot of our teachers use different student roles. And so something that came out of that was going to every classroom, having the students use the same consistent role so they knew what to expect in every space. So again, 2 of our subcommittees are working towards just making sure that they have consistent practices amongst all instructional spaces, and then breaking those down so that teachers have a good start in implementing those. We also do monthly AVID professional development to our staff about our reading strategies, focused note-taking, and our vocabulary instruction. And then we also have a peer observation PD strand that meets twice a month. We have a group of about a dozen teachers that are partnered up, and they go and observe each other's classrooms for different instructional goals that they want to focus on and different equity look-fors.
Good job.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tiffany, and I am the chair and co-chair of the Family and Community Engagement Committee. What can I say? So we've been focusing on, with this being a brand new committee to Edison, it's been great because I'm brand new to Edison. So I've kind of gotten to know the staff the best through this committee and what they're striving to do and what they want to see with this family and community outreach. So it's been really eye-opening for me, being new to Unit 4 and learning from them. So a couple of things that we've been working on this year. We've been working on a parent advisory committee. Now, this is just in the planning phase right now. Implementation our goal is for next year. And with this, to keep it simple, what we're wanting is parents to have a voice and represent our student body. And so we're really taking this seriously and looking into this thoroughly so we can have a great representation of our students at Edison. With our community partnership, I'm super proud of this committee because they've been working so hard. Not only are we in the process, but we've actually started making this happen. So some of our awesome partners so far this year has been Parkland, the U of I. We've had STEAM Genius come in and do an amazing assembly for our students. And in March, we're actually reaching out to the community, here's my plug, to do a supply drive for hygiene supplies for our students. We're looking for things like toothpaste, deodorant, soap, body spray, shampoo, conditioner, things of that nature, so we can have an awesome closet for our students. So if they need anything, it's available to them. So, like I said, we're working hard in this committee. Family events, we had an open house at the very beginning of the year. Not only was it just teachers, being there and smiling, but we had blow-ups and inflatables out on the blacktop. We had a cookout. Din and her amazing husband were out there just slinging hot dogs for our families, and it was great. And, it was just really great to see our families come and just get to know us, and we just have conversations with them. In March, we're having a movie night, or no, just kidding. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. February 24th, 6 to 8 p.m., we're having a movie night at Edison. We'll have popcorn and snacks, so if you're interested, 6 to 8. February 24th. Okay, so the last thing is, and probably the most important, we're in the process of examining a system of communication for our students and family. We want it to be a way for them to reach out to us, families to have a direct line to us. And, that's been a challenge for us, but we're still working hard on this. One example that we tried, and it seemed to work really well, is after our family conferences, we had a QR code for families to scan just to give us feedback on what they liked, what they would like to see improved, and we took that in our committee to use for our spring conferences. So we're really excited. Again, we're still trying to streamline, and it comes with the good and the bad, but we're learning. So again, family and community engagement, this is what we're doing. So Kyle.
All right, Kyle Freeman, Associate Principal at Edison. I help run the Culture and Climate group, and excuse me. Our focus is on systems of support for our students, and so we think if we have, or we know when we have strong systems of support, that the day can run much more seamless, and students, know and understand. Is that idea of space versus place. We want Edison to be a place where students want to be. I know we talked about that a few years ago with Dr. Ward, of just coming to Edison and it feeling like a family and a place where students want to be. And so how we do that, we want to create safe spaces for students to have discussions with staff, with each other. We want to self-care resources. I know Tiffany just talked about that a little bit in the family and community engagement, but having a wellness or self-care resources available and some coping strategies. So what are some tier systems of support that we can provide to our students so that they can navigate their day and be successful? And so that's a little bit of our focus with our MTSS, our multi-tiered systems of support work as well. Next, second bullet point on trauma-based supports. So we have done some trainings around those for trauma-based schools, and then we did create a trauma team this year because we know that there's a lot going on in the community. We know we've had some deaths in our families. And so just how are we wrapping around those students with resources and other things so that they are supported in our school and in our community as well. And then next, looking at lessons, social emotional lessons. So we know we have a strong tier one with second step, but also how are we navigating our needs? And that's just kind of pivoting based on what we're seeing in our spaces. So really looking at the data, our discipline data, our panorama data, in order to provide meaningful social emotional supports for our students. And so we're looking at that data all the time in our grade levels and really finding meaningful resources within our social emotional support. And then finally, how are we celebrating students? Really taking a look at using our data and then celebrating them in a meaningful way. So I know Ms. Williams and Ms. Carter, she got a pie in the face the other day. Just looking at, like we had, our target behavior was on hallway behavior. And so we're really looking to align our panorama social emotional work with our discipline data to see what our greatest needs are and how we can best support students in that process. And so that is our social or our culture and climate committee work that we've been doing.
And after watching the other ones, I've learned not to go to the next slide because it says thank you. So I'll ask you first if you have any questions before we tell you thank you. We practiced.
I know. The mic drop moment, then they leave. Any questions? Elizabeth?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I have two questions, so I'll start with one. What has been, anybody, everybody, one person, whoever wants to answer this, what has been something that you have learned through this process that really surprised you?
One thing with me, and then I'll let maybe Mr. Freeman say something, is just how intentional our conversations and our collaborations have been around our student data and just about, especially as we started focusing on, I always felt like Edison was pretty good about aligning what our work to our school improvement plan. But as we started the focused schools work and really aligning everything we're doing around that one thing, I think has been really cool for us. It's just been very powerful.
For me is like the idea of intentionality with our staff and our students and everyone involved in the process and seeing it become broad to more specific. So how are we being intentional in everything that we do in order to meet the goals of the school improvement plan? And so that has been a big takeaway for me because we kind of started very broad the first year and we had so many action steps. And then as we've kind of gone through the process and kept our focus, we've realized that the more intentionality we have, the better it is to meet the goals that we have put out for ourselves.
Thank you. Second question? Okay. Mr. Brown?
I was going to ask, what do you attribute your the growth amongst your MLL students or any of the other improvements? What do you attribute that growth to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that I think our, like Mr. Freeman had mentioned, our intentionality, I would say with a lot of the work that we're doing, we are pushing out reading and vocabulary strategies and collaboration strategies like crazy. And so, we're doing reading collaborations with our teachers every quarter, our reading teachers every quarter, and those conversations are very, very focused on our student data and not just looking at the data, but what are you actually going to start implementing in your classroom the next day? We have always had a phenomenal MLL staff in our building, and they are just they're so dedicated to our students and just being so flexible with the work that they do. Going into their classrooms, it's just their instructional strategies are solid. The relationships that they have with their students is really incredible. So I'd say that there's kind of a lot that goes into it, but those are a couple of things.
Ms. Vasquez?
I'm a mentor in Edison, so I'd like to hear more about the students' own assessment. How you talked to the students, that they assigned their own numbers, that the numbers were really fairly representative of above this 80%, because you really do see it in the building. There's a tremendous energy for kindness in the building. And I've been a long-term Unit 4 fan of Franklin because that's a school in the middle school I knew. And seeing such an incredibly warm environment in Edison too is really lovely, and it's very noticeable. So I'm curious if you can talk a little bit more about how the students' own assessment was worked on with them.
Yeah, so the panorama assessment, all of our students, we usually have a pretty high percentage of students who take that assessment. We try to get all students, but it gets kind of hard to get every single kid. And so I think I just feel like there's so much work around just, I would say, like kindness, and we model a lot of that for our students too, I would say, and our staff. And I mean, we're always trying to do kind of warm things for our staff, which I think is then reflected in what they're doing with their students. We've changed a lot of our grade level time, so we meet every single day. Each of our grades, the teachers meet together. So sometimes it's all together as a full grade level. Sometimes it's just a separate team. But we have been the conversations we have in those spaces have really shifted from managerial things to more about like relational capacity with students. We do what's called a champion activity that Ms. Carter talked about, where we identify specific students that we know need more of a connection to our school. And so there's just a lot of things that I would say that we do to really try to wrap around our kids.
Dr. Baker?
I think there's two Edison parents here, but I'm the only one here right now. So I at least wanted to acknowledge the staff for the work that you do. I know even at the beginning of the year, there were some tough things happening, but you were very responsive in terms of communication. And so I like to hear, obviously, that you can still grow in that area. And so I appreciate hearing that, as well as celebrating our students. There's so many good students at Edison. I love learning about each of them. Just a side note, Edison, the basketball team won regionals. There were some ranked players on that team. I mean, there's so many good students, right? It's not just in the athletics, in many spaces. And so I love to hear how we might celebrate them more and showcase them a little bit more, obviously with their permission. And just a few other notes as you were talking about family and community engagement, I think, because I'm not going to have this opportunity. I'm a Franklin Knight here on out. The Ickle Pickle Tickle, right? Mr. Patton came in and has revamped. I know. It's a play. You're not alone. There were many people that were like, what is this? It was a really good production, and I was excited to see it. My students excited to see it. I can't wait to see what comes down the road. Miss Yasunaga's Corner, she has continued to just bring those boys and girls, they come and they just sit, and I don't know if she knows how important that is probably for them to start their day, but I definitely recognize that. The Glow Light Party. Students did not want to go. I mean, there were a few that were excited about it, but for the most part, they were not. And I think I love for those opportunities for students just to be students without parents and other people around them. And so I appreciate the staff for continuing to think about some of those ways. And along with that, maybe we can get a partnership with Duncan. Just saying. I tell you, there's so much money has been spent, and I'm pretty sure you don't like all the stuff that's being brought into the school, but maybe we should think about something like that. But thank you all, seriously, for the work you do.
Any other questions? Last one? Kathy?
I just want to know where we can find out where we can donate to the Edison hygiene closet.
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of our ideas is to bring stuff through some of our athletic events for students to be able to get like a free popcorn or something if they donate something, but then also have a drive where we have boxes outside. The team, I can't remember the final things that the team had decided on, but I know that the subcommittee that was working on this has worked through a lot of the plans, so we'll make sure that we send that out.
Elizabeth?
So that was pretty much my question. So it's not live just yet. It's come, okay.
Nope, they wanted to do a clothes drive, and we're already doing a clothes drive through our student council. And so, and I know that Actions is doing a clothes drive as well. And so I'm like, well, let's focus on maybe a hygiene drive for the students instead. I know that Ms. Williams had talked about that a little bit, and so we kind of wanted to see that play out in fruition, so.
Can I get a tip on hallway passing behavior? Because I pass a 17 and 2 13s. It's not going well in the house. I might need some hallway tips other than grunting at me.
If I could have a tip for hallway behavior, I would actually like that.
No, it's how can we support you? It's something that we ask each team that's come forward. How can we continue, or how can we support you better?
I would just say, like, continuing to highlight the good things that we do and just being supportive, like if we ever need anything. I feel like we've always felt very supported at Edison. I know that if I need something immediately, like from Dr. Taylor, I know that I'm going to call and get a response within seconds probably. So, yeah, we feel very supported. And so I would say just continuing to be there for us when we do need something.
Anything else? That was wonderful. Thank you so
Thank you.
so much.